your needs. Our professional and experienced team will guide you through the entire process and ensure you find the right client for your property. For a no obligation quotation, contact us now on 0208 558 2000. That's 0208 558
Thinking about selling or
2000.
letting your home?
Nikah, talaq, counseling on matrimonial disputes, Islamic wills, Islamic law of inheritance, or an Islamic verdict on any other issue. The Muslim Sharia Council is at your service. We provide official certification, and our experienced and highly qualified imams are available to provide you with guidance when needed. MQI London is based at 292 to 296 Romford Road, Forest Gate. We are open from Monday to Friday, 2 to 4 p.m. or alternatively, call us now on 0208 257 1786.
ReviveFM
94.0 on the radio,
on your mobile,
and online.
Minhaj Sisters UK are proud to host their biannual retreat
We're really thankful for your time, Madam Mayor. We've been running for 5 years. We've been on your case for the best part of 5 years. I had to personally approach you, and it was a pleasure meeting with you a couple of months ago, and we tied this date in today, so I'm very thankful for your time.
Thank you very much, and I'm really delighted to be here. And I'm so sorry it's taken so long, but as I have said previously, I'm happy to come back and let's get this in as a frequent occurrence.
Fantastic. We have requested the mayor to kindly come down once every couple of months, maybe once every 3 months. We will finalize the details and share that with our viewers and our listeners in the future. But I just wanted to start with a quick fire round. I did mention this to the mayor before we started. So you have to mention what's the first thing that comes to your mind. So there's no overthinking allowed in this section particularly. First thing that comes to your mind, I'd hope for whatever you give to us in terms of your answer. Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Okay. It's time for a snack. Are you having something sweet or salty?
Salty pretzels.
Pretzels. Okay. You've got to do some communication with somebody. Would you prefer doing it over email or over the phone?
Over the phone.
That personalized touch, I'm guessing. Brilliant. Chicken or meat?
Meat.
Meat. Okay. Early bird or night owl?
Oh, both.
Both.
In this job.
In this job. It's 24 hours. Okay. Favorite cuisine?
Italian.
Italian. Okay. Dogs or cats?
Cats.
You're a cat person, just like myself. If you had the option to study something, would it be history or geography?
History.
History. Brilliant. Okay, it's going to be, this one might need a bit of thought, but I think it's a very good question. 3 people, dead or alive, to have a evening dinner with.
Muhammad Ali.
That's me as well.
Malcolm X.
Malcolm X.
A little bit of thought. God, the third one is really hard.
So it's Mayor Fiaz, Muhammad Ali, the legendary boxer, Malcolm X, no introduction needed. Nelson Mandela?
No, do you know what? I would really love. Oh, does it have to be someone who's passed?
No, it could be dead or alive.
Michelle Obama.
Michelle Obama, very interesting. I'm sure she'd have a lot of stories to tell as well. Okay, a personal question or a more localized question. You might get other people angry. I don't know if it's not their favorite. Favorite park in Newham?
Oh, goodness. Right, Pashik Park. And the reason being because I had so many wonderful memories when I was growing up because I used to live in Shrewsbury Road.
Fantastic. Favorite holiday destination?
Oh, South Spain.
South of Spain, Malaga, I'm guessing. Malaga, Marbella.
No, actually, Jerez.
Oh, Jerez. Okay, lovely. Brilliant. Mayor, I wanted to, because your job, obviously, it's a unthankful task, I'd say, is one of those things. If you were to, for those that are listening that maybe want to know what your day-to-day routine is, can you go through a typical day of the life of the mayor of Newham? What would that entail?
So it's not thankless. It is hard. It is intensely pressurizing. There are moments of calm, tranquility, allowing one to think. And in any given day, your plans for the day will completely go out the window. There'll be an intense set of conversations about an aspect of manifesto delivery or a discussion around the council's budget, for instance, or how things are progressing in response to a crisis or a challenge that we face. And we always face our challenges and crisis in confidence, knowing that we will do our best. And then joy, because an important aspect of my role in any given day is meeting with residents. So earlier this week, I was at a Diwali event at one of our local temples on East Ham High Street North, and I left and headed home, and I had a big smile, and I felt very nourished because it reminded me of purpose as to why I do what I do presently and why we are mobilising the mission that we have since May 2018.
Fantastic. Mayor, what made you go down this path? I was doing my research on yourself. You've got a very distinguished career, I must say. A lot of work with a lot of governmental agencies and authorities, etc., especially at the back of 7/7, I believe. So what was it that made you become the mayor? So was that a path that you had when you were younger to go into politics, or is it something that was thrust upon you?
I've always been committed to social justice, and that's been very informative throughout my life. Growing up in Newham, attending school, would always intervene if I saw people in my year or school or class not being treated well by other pupils or even by teachers, and I would want to step in. I have also, in the context of the experience of my parents' generation, they were part of the pioneer generation, as I'd like to call them, that came over here in the early 1960s, and the experience of racism has indelibly, embedded in my mind, and I didn't think that was right. And I have always felt a need to want to be part of a movement of change in the world. And my world is my immediate surrounding and environment and my community, and I want the best for people that I live. And also my own faith, being of Muslim faith, giving back and doing good is so central to what we believe, and so that has really shaped my influences. And I was growing up at a time when there was all that disruption in Pakistan, when the military took over and Prime Minister Bhutto was arrested, put under house arrest, and then eventually was hung. And I remember conversations between my mum and dad around the kitchen table. My mother and father would always have the Daily Junk delivered daily. So politics was very much part of the household conversation.
Part of the fabric of the household, pretty much.
And, obviously it's politics from country of heritage, mine, and country of origin, my parents. And one inspiration was Malcolm X. So when I was 10 or 11, I read in quick succession the biography of Mahatma Gandhi, followed by Roots, the book about the transatlantic slave trade, and also the biography of Malcolm X. And I remember actually, it's been something that I have continued to pursue, you know, the fight against racism and injustice. So, yeah, it's just how I'm constructed. And everything that I've done ever since has not been part of a grand plan. I'm very much in the spirit of our belief. Allah tests us, and it's to whom we serve, and things come up, and if they're interested and if I'm interested and if I feel committed and if it reflects my values as a person, then I would be interested in doing that.
Fantastic. I think that's a very brilliant introduction, and it's a good gateway to take us towards all things Newham. I've got to pre-warn you, all the questions are from local residents, all local WhatsApp groups, local concerns, and that's why we want to have this regular with you, whereby we can use ReviveFM as that platform where we can take all the questions and then put them directly to you, so that people can hear from the mayor herself in terms of the matters. So I don't want to delve too long on any particular topic because there's so many, but I'd want to start with people-powered places. Fantastic initiative. Maybe for those that aren't aware, if you could maybe go into a bit of detail, how it came about, what the work that's being done in each of the areas within Newham for each of the districts as well. If you could maybe give us a little breakdown on people-powered places.
Thank you very much. Really good question. So look, understanding me is understanding me through the context of my lived experience as a minoritized member of marginalized communities in this country growing up. I am disruptive by nature in my pursuit of social justice, and I stepped into office at a time where in Newham there was a real trust deficit between the people of Newham and the council. And I think we're living through an era where trust in public institutions has really broken down, and we've got an obligation and a duty to rebuild that. And one significant part of our agenda under the administration that I've been leading since May 2018 has been participatory democracy. Now, had we have done participatory democracy as it's now evolved into people-powered places, it's the largest participatory budget exercise anywhere in the country. It's been lauded and celebrated as being an example of best practice around the world. It is our contribution, and there are many, about the philosophy of my administration. We don't do to our communities, we work with and do with them. And it's in the spirit of participatory democracy that we decided that we would use an element of funding that we accrue through a funding stream called Community Infrastructure Levy. And presently we've allocated £1.6 million, and it's about empowering local residents in their localities across all of our neighbourhoods.
I think it's £200,000 for each locality, isn't it?
For each neighbourhood, and people are able to develop ideas, pitch them, and as with everything, there's always a process of learning and generating insight in a similar vein to any company or organisation that will invest in R&D. We want to be investing in enabling our residents to take and feel empowered, take control and feel empowered in their neighbourhoods to help contribute to an enhancement of the areas in which they live. It's not a replacement of those core things that the council, as with any local authority, is responsible for. So we will still continue doing highways fixing, we'll still continue building homes, we'll still be continue sort of maintaining our parks, etc. But this is a really important and empowering way for our residents to get involved and be part of shaping Newham as a place.
Is there any particular projects in this cycle that you'd like to maybe comment on, or something dynamic that caught your eye?
So it would be inappropriate for me to sort of make any comment on any of the applications because there has to be integrity in the process, and it's people powered because it's people powered inspired and also people powered voted. But I always derive so much joy when I step into those final set of meetings where people are voting, and the excitement across the faces, young and aging, from all backgrounds. I'm just really heartened by it. It really has reverse that trust deficit. And actually, funny enough, I was at a meeting with the University College London. As you know, they have their new campus on the East Bank in Queen Elizabeth Park, just by Carpenter's estate. And we've been working and collaborating with the Institute of Global Prosperity, and they're undertaking a longitudinal study called the Citizen Index, and it's looking at ways in which communities feel about the places that they live. And there was one metric that they've been measuring for the last 3 years and will continue for another 7 years. And one of them was trust in local politicians. And actually, when you see the point at which they started, which was 3 years ago, it was very low, and now it's increased high. So I would like to think that we've contributed to that in the way that I describe through projects and endeavours like People Power Places.
Fantastic. So I think the project cycle is coming to an end now. Will this be something that's going to happen again next year, or is there still discussions on that regard?
So the Community Infrastructure Levy, it's drawn down from developer contributions towards any schemes. There's real clarity that the government provides in terms of what money can be used for. So we have to meet that framework. As with all of our programmes, as it links to policy priorities that we have set out in both the manifesto in term 1 and the manifesto for term 2, building a fairer Newham, we're having to re-examine things because I'm sure one of the questions that may well come up is the position around the council's budget and finances. I want to make sure that every single penny and pound that we spend optimises credible, tangible, material outcomes for our residents. We've made the health, well-being and happiness of our residents our principal measure of economic success. We're the first local authority in the country to do that. We will continue looking at ways in which, through People Power Places, it evolves, it becomes better, it expands its enabling of our communities. And as for specifics around how much, that will have to be subject to budget discussions in the coming months.
Fantastic. Thank you. I'm going to move on to the next question. It's important that we preserve our heritage, especially in Newham. And one of our flagship heritage sites, if you want to call it that, is the Queen's Market that's on Green Street. And I've had a lot of questions for people associated with Queen's Market. There's a couple of questions. The first one is, there's a fear within the residents there or the local community that this might be closed down and sold to developers to build high-rising buildings. We wanted to comment on that firstly. And secondly, I believe that there's been some remedial works in terms of lighting in the Queen's Market recently in June, which maybe isn't up to the standard, and some people were questioning whether the council would be rectifying that issue as well.
So look, let me just start with the premise or the charge that the council is going to do this monstrous thing to something that is well loved and well used by our resident communities. And as you say, it's a important part of our heritage. It's 100 years old plus. It has evolved over the years, as do all things. We're investing £13 million in a good growth programme that includes Queen's Market and the Hamaragar building. That will be subject to a significant retrofit programme and upgrading the housing provision and facilities for those vulnerable and elderly aging residents that benefit from the supported living that we provide there, and that neighbours Queen's Market. At no point have we ever said we're going to do away with it, we're going to demolish it, there's going to be high rises here, there, everywhere.
I think if I just come in, so the allegation is that something similar was said regarding Rathbone Market, I believe, and I don't have the full details there, but I believe that residents were assured, but it's a lot smaller and it's not as big or as marketable as it was previously.
So I think I'll come to Rathbone Market because that relates to a set of historical decisions made by the council previously and prior to me becoming the mayor, and what's happened in that instance and what our plans are for not just Rathbone Market but all of our other markets. And you will have noted earlier this year we have saved the Stratford indoor market. That's not a sign of a council led by a administration that I head as the Mayor of Newham that wants to diminish markets. Going back to Queen's Market, I've said repeatedly, Queen's Market is here to stay. It's the jewel in our crown. We're investing in it. I don't think it's acceptable for our residents, including people from all backgrounds in our communities, to be shopping in a place that's dull, ill-lit, dirty, hasn't been invested in years, but we're putting in a significant amount, millions of pounds of investment in Queen's Market. Queen's Market will stay. There's been a series of consultations with traders and with local residents about what they would like to see. We've had studies relating to future investment plans and how we can optimize the value of the market as a market and retail destination for Newham, because Green Street, outside of Stratford town centre and High Street North, Green Street is a remarkable trading area of commercial activity and a place where small companies, entrepreneurs are able to thrive and grow. We want to re-evoke the glory days of Green Street, and Queen's Market is central to that.
And is it specifically to the lighting issue? I think something was installed in June, and I believe
on the lighting, as part of the remedial works underway, one thing that traders rightly said that because of the way in which the market had been developed over the past couple of decades, it's quite dark. We undertook with lighting experts an investigation and consulted on a new lighting system. That's been installed. We've had feedback. The council officers are meeting with market traders tomorrow because even though the lighting met the tender spec, the traders have said that it is slightly darker, so we're working to remedying that. So in summary, for me, it's another example of how, we remain engaged. We have made commitments around investments. We want to improve Queen's Market. And as we proceed with delivery and progress on preserving, and I use that word intentionally and deliberately, preserving in the context of Queen's Market's heritage for our communities, and it's absolutely importance as a focal point in Green Street, because Green Street has very many different characters. It's a long street. No one part of Green Street feels the same. So we're going to be addressing the lighting issues, and I'm really looking forward to what comes next.
Brilliant. Moving on to the next question. It's been quite tough for the Newham Council in terms of reports and media coverage in the last month. So I just wanted to delve into a couple of those issues, if it's possible. A social housing a report came through whereby Newham Council was, I think for the first time ever, a local authority has been graded C4 grading. 40% of the 16,000 homes had not electrical condition test for more than 11 years. At least 20% of its homes do not meet the requirements of the Decent Home Standard. In terms of the report and the findings, very limited meaningful opportunities for tenants to influence and scrutinize the landlord's strategies, policies and services. The breadth and scale of these failings, including very serious health and safety issues, pose an unacceptable risk to the tenant's well-being. So the report's obviously not been great. I think there's been quite a bit of discussion of that within local groups, etc. as well. What are your initial thoughts on what the findings state, and what would you say is the remedy to this?
So, first and foremost, absolutely unconditionally accept the regulator of social housing's judgment, C4. You're right. It's the first time a local authority is being graded C4. I suspect many others in the months and years ahead as the regulatory regime embeds, and it's one of three that housing services departments and social housing providers are subject to. I'm angry. I'm angry on behalf of residents, many of whom I meet when I'm door knocking and I see the state of estates, and it's unacceptable. And I've made it really clear there has to be answers as to why this happened, especially after 6 years of me having come in and making it really clear people at the heart of everything that we do. That's not a strapline, it's not a marketing whiz. It has to inform the practice of every single officer that works in the council, because all of our residents, particularly those that live in council homes, absolutely entitled to the respect, dignity, and if we cannot provide that in something as fundamental and in my mind a human right, the stability of a home, something has gone seriously wrong. So I'm requesting answers, but I've also made it really clear that I would expect to see rapid improvements. There's been the first meeting with the regulator last week with the chief executive and senior officers, including the corporate director for inclusive economy, under which housing services sit. I have appointed 2 cabinet members, one of whom will have a direct line of sight on a day-to-day basis on the action plan that will need to be developed with the regulator, reflecting the council's response. I've strengthened with the chief executive the governance oversight, her overseeing and being ultimately held to account on the officer side. I've asked the monitoring officer and the monitoring officer to clarify in statutory terms. There are 2 key roles that need to be performed under the regulatory environment. One's the responsible person, and that can be a cabinet member or a senior officer of the council, and the health and safety lead, which can be a officer and a cabinet member. So the responsible person can't be an elected representative. We need to clarify where that sits, because there's been lots of discussions that it's sat with the cabinet member for housing services, my former cabinet member, Councillor Shaban Mohammed. There was no decision made with regards to him being the health and safety lead. I think it's right and proper that sits within the officer corps, because they're responsible for operations. And as part of the strengthened governance, there will be fortnightly meetings with the regulator. They'll be developing rapidly an action plan. I have made it clear that I will be very transparent, and we will keep our residents in our homes that we own updated frequently, and I will be transparent as well with the wider resident population. And as each of those meetings take place, I will be receiving reports. I will undertake my own diagnostic. I'm going to be making announcements with regards to some additional independent experts that I would like to be bringing into this space that I can be working with. And I've made it clear that a rapid improvement in a similar vein to, for instance, children's services. I came into the council as the mayor in May 2018, was told, in the subsequent months, we're expecting, Ofsted to come and examine our children's services. But don't worry, Mayor, we're going to maintain requires improvement. At that point, no one told me, as the mayor, we've been in requires improvement in our children's services for coming up to nearly 20 years. We got the judgment in March 2019, inadequate, made an absolutely clear demand. I want this turned around and quickly. We will invest resources, and in 3 years, we got from inadequate in our children's services to good and outstanding. So there's a proof point there that we have an ambition and an intention and a commitment to turn things around, and it's right that we hold ourselves up to the highest standards, remain transparent. I've apologised on behalf of my administration to all of those council tenants. This is not acceptable, it shouldn't have happened, and we will get this right.
Mayor, just going further on that, obviously, I believe one of your councillors, you mentioned his name, Councillor Shaban, resigned at the back of this report, also asking for your own resignation as well. And then there's questions from residents as well, that a number of officers in these years have come and gone. Was that a wife's decision? Just generally, have you reflected ever to resign at the back of this? Has that ever come across your mind?
It is absolutely right. The council's processes as it relates to performance reviews of officers is maintained, increased, enhanced. There was very little performance management in the council. It's an obvious question for any leader to be asked to reflect, and in this instance, it is right that I ask and demand those questions. How did this happen? I think it was very noble and graceful of Shaban to have stepped down. I didn't ask him to. I am intending to see this through, because in your role as a leader, you will always be thrown challenges, and you will always see and discover deficiencies in an organisation that you are the political leader of, and I will hold people to account. That's my role as the Mayor of Newham. And as the Mayor of Newham, I have to place my trust in officer colleagues and council to discharge their legal duties as a social landlord with regards to these important areas. And I'm saying that as someone who has been so aggrieved at the discoveries that I've made with regards to how the council has responded to all manner of things, be it the safety of our children, exploitation, and working really hard to turn it around. I have never said the council's perfect. I've made it really clear the council is on a improvement journey, and we're entering into a new phase of our improvement plans. We published a paper in August of this year that sets out the way in which the council is going to transform. We've had to get the basics right. There's variability still in terms of quality and performance across different service areas. There are parts of the council that operate as if they're their own universe. They can't. They're here for the service of our residents. That's my role. My role is an advocate of Newham residents as the Mayor of Newham, and I've made that clear from day one. I am not an advocate for Newham Council. My role, first and foremost, in light of the democratic mandate that I have as a Labour and cooperative mayor, to make change that will transform people's lives and the place called Newham that I grew up and I love.
Mayor, there's a financial black hole that we're obviously, some will argue that we were maybe slow walked ourselves into this financial black hole. We're aware of other councils that have obviously gone bankrupt, Birmingham City Council being probably the most famous one. There's obviously varying numbers as well, maybe a £22 million deficit. I'm hearing £175 million over 3 years. I don't know how accurate that is. We understand there's 60,000 plus people living in temporary accommodation, which is probably one of the major factors behind this. What are we to do with this massive financial black hole? Are we walking into a bankruptcy, or are we going to be able to save ourselves from there?
Councils can't go bankrupt. Okay, just on a technical point, they can be put into a position where external commissioners come in because the government directs. We presently, as a consequence of not financial folly, not bad investments, not kicking into the long grass, tough decisions that councils need to be making as opposed to hiding from, with reference to Birmingham. You know, the reason they were so exposed was as a consequence of a long-standing staff industrial relations dispute that exposed them to a significant liability as a consequence of discrimination and the way in which female members of staff are being treated relative to their male counterparts. Other councils like Croydon, Thurrock, elsewhere, terrible investments, financial folly, weak governance. Had it not been for temporary accommodation and the pressures, and I'll come to that in a bit more detail, the last 2 years our budgets would have been balanced. The situation that we find ourselves in, and it's £175 million budget forecast gap in the next 3 years as a consequence of primarily temporary accommodation, which counts for £100 million of that £175 million forecast budget gap. The rest is children and adult social care. We're waiting for government to provide clarity around social care reforms. It is not unknown that there is a crisis in children's care funding. We've been arguing for fair funding review, and we have been crippled by a broken housing market. In Newham, we have some 6,500 households in temporary accommodation. It's amongst the largest in the country. London houses the majority of England's temporary accommodation households. There has been a contraction of supply. In Newham, we have 68% of our resident population living in the private rented sector. The majority of homes in the private rented sector are owned by landlords that buy to let, large, small, medium size. We've had the cost of living crisis because of flawed, bad, terrible economic decisions made by the Conservative government, compounding 14 years of austerity that every single local authority, but particularly places like Newham, where the need is high and the scale of deprivation is expansive and deep. We have a situation now where supply is reduced by some 47%. Our numbers roughly remain the same. It's the cost per unit of temporary accommodation that is increasing because of a failure in the housing market, which the new government is correcting. Today's autumn statement and the announcements will be getting further details in terms of specific allocations to Newham in December. So I'm saying in summary, the financial challenge that we are facing is not of our making. There are some particularly unique, exceptional reasons why Newham Council's temporary accommodation household numbers is of the size that it is. Some of that is historical. So if you look at the figures, and they are regularly published in papers that come to Cabinet, again, all part of our transparency agenda, I inherited a long-standing temporary accommodation household cohort of 3,000. We've got 37,000 people on our housing waiting list. We had an allocations policy that wasn't fair. It wasn't responding to people in need. We are working flat out through building homes, purchasing new homes, addressing issues of under occupancy in existing council homes. So where, for example, you may have had a 3-bedroom council home allocated to a family 25 years ago. Kids grown up have left, and it's just now mum, dad, who are aging well, but do they need a 3-bedroom council home? No, they don't. We are working through our housing delivery company, Popular Living, in a housing product for those in that category and cohort of age, so that they can live well. So the housing development site on Barking Road is 70 plus units for our aging well population, and we're working to incentivise those current council tenants who are part of our ageing population to move into those homes so we can free up homes. We're also looking at all of our smaller sites to build as many housing units as we can. So we're doing a combination of direct delivery through our housing company and the council. We're delivering homes through our acquisitions programme. We are also undertaking an assessment of our stocks, including voids, and utilising our existing stockpile. And we're needing to have honest conversations with people. You know, by all means, you've got an entitlement and right to, you know, make a pitch for a council home. The current average waiting time based on, you know, assessments, because everyone will be assessed, and we'll be really clear with people. Actually, the council doesn't have a duty to house you. Where we do have a duty, we will be really realistic and clear with them. It's going to take long, so the average waiting time presently, something like 13 to 15 years. We've got back people that have been in temporary accommodation properties for about 15 years. And that goes back to my inherited 3,000 households in TA at the point at which I became the mayor in May 2018. And we're also doing a huge amount of work in preventing homelessness in the first place. We're working with landlords and encouraging them to be good best practice landlords. We are also looking at addressing and tackling rogue landlords. You know, those that think it's okay to issue an eviction notice just like that. And I'm really thankful that the council will benefit from the government's announcement to ban no-fault evictions, because that has been singularly in recent years as a consequence of landlords stepping out of the market and they want to sell their homes or pass it on. That singularly has been one major driver of the number of presentations come to the council. It's not unique to Newham, but Newham is of a scale. We have approached the government for what's called exceptional financial support. Now, exceptional financial support in the Newham instance is not handing, you know, cap in hand, asking for money. What we're asking for is allow us to use the assets that we have that will be surplus to requirements. So we've got £500 million worth of assets. That £500 million worth of assets includes schools, our roads, parks, which we obviously can't sell. But they also include buildings that we have either no use for, or are too big, or don't meet our strategic intent in terms of how we want to organise the council in the future, because it's going to, it's going to change. We've asked for exceptional financial support for us to be able to use the capital receipts that we accrue from selling of those assets to offset the revenue pressures in the general fund. At the moment, councils can sell capital assets, can sell assets, and the capital receipts from the selling of those assets can only go into the capital budget, which we will then use to build homes, etc. So we're asking government if we can use some of that money to offset the budget forecast gaps that we have identified, and that is a illustration of a council led by a administration that is good governance, first and foremost, is managing and has managed budgets well, even through the period of the COVID-19 crisis. We were told by government, spend whatever it is. Every single council was told by government, spend what you need to spend in order to save lives. You will get recompense. They still owe us money from COVID-19. They didn't honour their promise. We've been dealing with the cost of living crisis. That also has an impact on the council, because cost inflation has an impact on everything that we do. It's not just for, household budgets. It's not just for private companies. It's for public bodies as well. So we're working through the issues. And as I said, we published in August 2 important papers, which I would encourage all of your listeners to read. One was the summer finance report that set out the position as is at that time, and we've most recently published the October finance report, which provides an update, including savings that we're making in year and areas of savings that we are consulting on, where we need to have a statutory consultation and engaging with our residents. And I'd also encourage your listeners to attend those events. And then the second paper that I would encourage everyone to read is the transformation paper that was published in August for Cabinet, because that points to all the transformation that we're going to be doing at the council to drive down efficiencies and ensure that we're operating as a council with an eye to spending every single penny and pound well.
Thank you. We're going to have to be brief in the next segment. I've got quite a number of questions. I would have liked to have delved further into the deficit and the budgets and cutting measures, etc. But I'll quickly move on.
And just on that point, I'm happy to come back.
Oh, absolutely. We will hold you to account for that. We will definitely have you back. Another issue that definitely affects a number of residents in the London Borough of Newham is burial provisions. And I believe that there is an organization that's been set up that's been liaising with yourself as well, Newham Muslim Burial Association, in regards to not just for Muslims, but just burial provision in the borough. Could you briefly, we've got to be brief, if you just let us know where we are currently with that?
So that's progressing really well. So in summary and briefly, commenced meetings with the Newham Burial Association, and actually since 2018 I've been having conversations with regards to forecast requirements around burial space for our communities. We have a legal requirement to provide burial space. I'm very conscious that we are a diverse, hyper-diverse borough of people from so many different backgrounds and faith practices, and in our equal duty regard, we've got to ensure that we've got that, we've got in place all of the short, medium and long-term requirements. We've put within the local plan provision around burial space, we've commissioned an expert consultant to look at how we can meet that required demand. We're working with, have been working with Gardens of Peace as well as the New Muslim Burial Association, and it's progressing well. We have everything on the website in terms of that piece of work that we commissioned to look at the burial space need, and we're currently examining how we can meet that in the short to medium term and the long term. So
Fantastic.
it's positive work in progress, and I'm really excited by the progress we've particularly made in the last 12 months, because I know it's been quite slow. Part of that has been, turning around the Titanic that is Newham Council. Everything's a priority, but you've got to
prioritize the priorities. Yeah.
But no, it's progressing well.
Fantastic. We will be speaking about that in future shows as well. I'm just going to go through these questions. One of the questions, a lot of questions came to me regarding policing. Forest Gate stations closed down, Stratford Station, Plaistow Station. A lot of residents, I don't know why, but a lot of residents from East Ham, so High Street North, the lack of policing in High Street North, pickpocketing, fly tipping, a lot of concerns. Even if I give you a brief concern, people's cars being towed away, and then they're going to the compound and being treated like criminals. One resident actually said to me the mayor should actually get her car compounded. I was like,
twice.
Twice. And then they were like, she should go there and undercover just to see how how these people are treated like criminals. Generally, I won't go into specifics. In terms of policing, why is there so much concern in the residents?
Look, I'm going to address the point around the experience of residents going to the compound, and I will raise that directly with the Chief Executive because that's unacceptable. As I said earlier, with regards to our council housing tenants, and at any point of interface, any resident, my demand is that they are treated with respect, courtesy, and dignity. It doesn't matter whether or not your car's being put in the compound. Mine's been put in the compound twice, and I've had to make my trek over there. On the policing issue, it is right. The residents are concerned. I'm concerned. We're part of what's called a 2-borough BCU footprint. We have a borough commander that covers Waltham Forest and Newham. We are holding the police to account. There hasn't been that visibility of policing.
So that's the main concern. There's not enough visibility.
And part of that has been because of the previous government's complete dissemination in terms of draw of resource for policing over the last 14 years. This is a consequence of 14 years of austerity. The new government's made it really clear that police visibility in our neighbourhoods is a must. The Mayor of London concurs with that, and we are holding the police to account, and we are making sure as part of the partnership work with the police, having those frank conversations about what's not working and what is needing to improve. Those are happening, and they're happening at a pace. I have a meeting with the borough commander, the new one. I don't think it helps when there's a kind of musical chair of borough commanders coming and going. So I've had, in the time that I've been the mayor in the past 6 years, 1, 2, 3, I'm on to my 4th borough commander.
Oh.
Both myself and the leader of Waltham Forest, will be addressing that, and we've, made it clear also in our discussions with the Mayor of London and his previous deputy that wasn't conducive to the sense of safety that our residents want to see. So we're addressing all of those issues, and I hope that in the context of East Ham, around the fly tipping, we've mobilised a East Ham neighbourhood forum space for these issues to come to bear, including enabling residents to hold police to account.
Thank you. Mayor, we've only got the last 5 minutes. I've got 3 questions, so we've got to keep it brief. Yeah. My next question, city airport expansion, going from 6.5 million to 9 million residents. I think you've stopped the weekend flight path, I think after 12:30, I believe. That's going to be a big load.
So the provisions with City Airport were conferred back in 1986, and one of the things that the council protected was the weekend quiet time from 12:30 on a Saturday to 12:30 on a Sunday. The expansion plans, when it came to Strategic Development Committee, which is our major plannings committee meeting, last year, there was refusal by committee members. City Airport, London City Airport challenged and sought judicial review. It then went up to the Secretary of State, two Secretaries of State, Angela Rayner and the Secretary of State for Transport. They've made their determination, and what it has allowed is an increase in passenger numbers, but not an increase in flights.
Okay.
On the weekdays.
So would that be a bigger carriers, though? I'm assuming.
So let's see what the London City Airport choose to do, because it was a major win for us to maintain the weekend curfew, and we will remain very vigilant in terms of impact on the local community and also neighbouring communities.
Brilliant. We'll follow up on that in future shows. Madam Mayor, you're in a very difficult position whereby you'll always be criticised for whatever you do. It comes with the job. However, would you like to speak about 3 initiatives under your leadership you are proud of to have started or achieved or done something that maybe isn't widely known? Maybe it could be just 1 or 2 because we're short on time, but something that you're really, really proud of, that maybe you started off as something, as a concept in your mind, and you've actually been able to deliver that in the last 4 or 5 years.
Okay, so 3 things. Number 1, I stepped into office. There were 3 full-time youth workers and 7 part-time youth workers. There's 43 in a borough where 38% of our resident population is under the age of 24.
Fantastic.
We've opened up a flagship youth zone at Stratford. We've
And
got
Beckton.
a brand new box fresh Shipman Youth Zone. We've got a collaboration with University of East London at Stratford. It's our specialist arts, creative, cultural sector youth zone. That's amazing. I'm really, really proud of that. We have mobilised with our voluntary community and faith sector partners, the Newham Food Alliance. We distribute 50 tonnes of free surplus food every week to households in this borough, over 30,000 households.
Brilliant.
It's pioneering. That is a proud achievement. I'm really, really proud and chuffed with how we've mobilised in collaboration with our communities on that front, so people don't go hungry. We've maintained also, as part of our food security endeavour, free school meals for primary school kids. It saves a family £500 per child each year, and they get a hot, nutritious meal every day when they're at school. And that's combined with the holiday and food programme during school term times for those most in need. And then finally, in regards to something that I'm really proud of, we have to always be thinking ahead, and the world is changing rapidly. And in that regard, we've got to ensure that we lift our people out of poverty. The average income of a household in Newham is £19,400. The London average is £29,400. The biggest route out of poverty is high income jobs. We are transforming our local economy so that we have high skilled, high income jobs available for our residents. We've started that with the data economy work. We have managed to expose some 1,000 young people and residents, men, women, and from all communities, to be engaging with the likes of Microsoft, Amazon, AWS. So that's really amazing things that we're doing.
Fantastic. We're coming to the end of the show. I've got my final question. But before I go to my final question, I'm very, very thankful to our listeners, our residents, our viewers. Please do share this video. far and wide. A lot of questions that were asked will be of direct interest and benefit to the residents of Newham. So I'm hopeful that we can get this shared far and wide, and I'm hopeful the mayor will be coming back when I have my next list of questions ready. But I think this is a very good medium where we can get the questions out. You can get nice, detailed answers that then people can go back and reflect on. Final question, Mayor. Something that we aren't talking about that we should be talking about.
Domestic violence, abuse of women, and the condition of our young people in this borough.
Fantastic. Mayor Fiaz, it's been a pleasure. Hopefully the first of many interviews. As I've mentioned, our residents, please keep it locked on Revive FM 94.0. Please like and subscribe our Facebook, TikTok, Instagram pages. And please do show love to the mayor for coming in. It took us 5 years. Hopefully it won't be another 5 years until she comes onto the hot seat again.
Probably
But
5 days.
5 days. But I'm thankful the mayor's still smiling at the end of the interview, which is a positive sign. Hopefully we will see you very, very soon. Keep it locked on Revive FM 94.0. Until the next time, take care. And it was a simple